What's up, everybody? This is the Healing Kings podcast, and I'm your host, Drew Carlson. We got a topic for you today that's been asked a lot by people, and one that I definitely want to cover. And that question is, or topic is, why don't men go to therapy? I'm going to give in this episode my spin on why I don't think men go to therapy and my personal experience also. So let's take a ride together. First, I don't want to make the blanket statement that men don't go to therapy. There are tons of men who do go to therapy, who do the work. There are tons of male therapists as well. So it's not that men don't go to therapy. It could be said that a lot of black men might not go to therapy, which is also not true. I know a lot of brothers who do go to therapy, but usually a lot of men don't versus the comparison to women. So let's dive into this. The reasons why I don't think men go to therapy is one, it's an emotional muscle that they're not used to working out. Men aren't used to normally doing a lot of talking about their heart, emotions, how they feel, how they think. We're usually not challenged in that way, or we're usually not groomed in that way to do so. Does not mean that it's not possible. It just means it's not usually the way that it's usually done. So do you get that point already? The second reason why I don't think men go to therapy is most of the time therapy looks like laying on somebody's couch and just spilling out your innermost feelings. Now, most people would not do that for the sake of they don't know this person. They have never probably done this with anybody, spilling out their innermost emotions and things like that. And three, they don't know the repercussions of what could happen when all of this stuff comes out, right? You spill out everything that's inside of you or just some deeper things, and then you leave the therapy office, you're pretty much open still. Open meaning you're pretty much open to deal with whatever you just brought up in your mind, in your heart, in your head, and that's very, very difficult. Now, the other reason I think also is people are told that they need therapy, and that alone, ladies, try not to tell your man you need therapy. Instead, invite him into a conversation where therapy has helped you or other people and leave him out of it. Let him make the decision on his own. If you tell him you need therapy, he's gonna push you away harder. And then lastly, the reason why I think men don't go to therapy is the stigma is still there that you're crazy if you do go to therapy. Something's wrong with you. You shouldn't have to go to somebody else to talk about what you feel, what you think, how you process stuff. You should be able to do that alone. And even in the Christian world, sometimes Christians could believe that prayer is the only answer. Prayer is an amazing solution. It's not the only solution. I strongly believe prayer and therapy can go hand in hand. Jesus and therapy can go hand in hand. Now, I want to give you my personal experience for my fellows who are listening, who feel exactly what I just said. I want to give you another experience from me personally so you can see that the reason for therapy is different than what you might think. So, I'm married at this time in my life, and my wife, we get into arguments. She tells me, I need therapy, things like that. She mentioned it a couple times, and every time she mentioned it, I kept getting more mad because I kept thinking, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Let's pause there first. But therapy doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It could just literally mean something's out of line, something's not in its proper place, or some trauma could have happened and you're disassociating your feelings with the matter, or you're disassociating you with the matter. And that can be good for that moment if you need to, but if you keep that up, what you're going to realize is you're disconnected from a lot of things, and that usually leads to a road of isolation, shutting down, and more trauma stuff. You guys can go read The Body Keeps Score. That's a really good book that you should read to learn about what happens when you deal with trauma. She keeps mentioning you need therapy. things like this. I think you would do good with therapy. And I kept giving every excuse. I don't have time. I don't have the money. And I was getting ready to almost go. And I was like, well, if you find me a male therapist, I'll go. And that in itself was a journey. Like, we never found a male therapist who I was going to feel comfortable with. Or, there was a guy who um, was recommended, and just by looking at it, it sounds so bad, but I'm being truthful on this podcast because we're healing kings. It sounds so bad. Looking at his Instagram and his social media, I was like, I don't want to get help from this guy. Like, he was a wreck. I was like, and he's probably gonna go tell all my business. So we got into some more arguments, and my wife said something that hit me so hard. It's as if it hit me in the head with a brick. If you guys remember that Home Alone episode when Macaulay Culkin, it's Home Alone 2, and Marv, one of the robbers, he's downstairs, and he looks up, and Macaulay Culkin just throws this brick right at his head, knocks him out. I digress. She says, you not dealing with your emotions or feelings, or you not getting the help you need, you don't realize you are going to start treating Aaliyah a lot differently. Aaliyah is my 4-year-old. She's 4 at this moment. I think she was 1 at this moment when we were talking. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm mad. What do you mean? And she said, you're showing her love and things like that because she's a new baby. But as she gets older, if you don't deal with some of the stuff, you're not going to be able to. You won't have the heart to do it. You'll literally be trying to do it out of your head and out of like scheduling things. Men are amazing at getting things done, at scheduling things, at sticking to a task, at disciplining themselves. But when it comes to the heart, sometimes, fellas, it's hard for us because we've also been hurt, but we've never worked out that muscle. The heart muscle is the muscle that gets neglected, but the heart muscle is the muscle that makes everything else connect. It's the muscle that makes everything else make sense. And we argued some more, and I ended up reaching out to a therapist that we knew. And I'm petrified, like scared that this therapist is gonna, read me my rights, be mean. It was the pandemic was at this time, so I couldn't even go into the office. So I was like, I'll do the phone stuff. That's whatever. And I get ready for my first call, and man, when I was like, I'm gonna take a long ride while I'm on this call, but first I'm gonna do it in the parking lot. I'm gonna take a long ride after just to see what happens. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna get in there. I'm just gonna tell her that my wife is wrong, people are wrong, I'm right, bad ego. And I get on the phone, and literally within the first 5 minutes, I never felt that someone listened so deeply than she did at that time. Shout outs to my therapist. Like, I'm not giving you the name, but shout outs to my therapist. And I could literally feel myself wanting to take down these walls that were up, these barriers that were up. And she asked me a question, and I was like, I'm not going there right now. I'm not ready. She asked me about my dad, and I was like, we're not going there right now. I'm not ready. I can't do this. But what she did was she talked about things that were at the front of my mind, and I didn't know they were leading to the things that were in my heart. And we talked, and she helped me out so much that one call. After I hung up, I was in the Glastonbury parking lot at the boathouse. I cried. I cried so much. I cried going from Glastonbury to Avon to take a long ride just to clear my mind, and it helped so much. But the thing that got me was I realized that I needed this help because I needed to live for something bigger than myself, and I needed to be able to start to love my wife, my daughters, from a place where it was just strictly my heart, not my commitment think about that. And from my heart was so hurt and so torn and so broken from not feeling that I had the things that I should have had. My dad uh, giving me love and validation and affirming me and things like that. That I just literally said I was not gonna love people from a place where they can hurt me. I would love them from my head, which is not the same. And before I made the call to go to therapy, I said, if I'm gonna do this for anybody, the first person I want to do it for, because she's the youngest, is my little daughter, because she does not need to see her dad grow up and not she does not need to grow up and notice that her dad can't love her from his heart, and that he'll just work and provide, but he won't provide emotionally. And when I made that decision, it's not that things changed overnight, but that one session started to let me see that even though I had trauma, even though I had hurt, that things could get better. You have to realize, you have to come to a place that you realize, if I want better, there might be some decisions I have to make that are uncomfortable, and some muscles that I have to work out that are not used to being worked out. And that muscle was my heart. I didn't want to go around cutting people off at the drop of a dime. I didn't want to go around having to schedule to talk to my family and to be present and to be emotionally present. I didn't want that, but that's all I knew. And for my fellas out there, sometimes that's all you know. And women, I want you to understand, sometimes he's not just being ignorant, it's all he knows. Not having the people in your life that's supposed to affirm you and validate you, having them not do it is damaging, and it's not right. And I can't tell you enough, having therapy now. I've been in therapy about maybe 3 years now. 3 years. The things that I had to unpack, man, if I would have known the breakthrough that it would have given me years ago, I would have went sooner, but I didn't know. And I don't want you to beat yourself up, men, today for you not knowing what you should do, what should happen. It's totally fine if you don't know. But what I want you to do is decide, if I want to make a better life for myself, my family, I got to do something different. And I knew if I did it just for Drew, I wouldn't have done it. But I decided, this is not about me. I got to do it for something. I got to do it for other people. I got to do it for people who I help, who I provide for, who I lead. And I got help along the way, and I'm getting help. It doesn't mean everything's over, but knowing that I'm making the right strides to get better, it's a world of a difference. So to summarize it, yes, it is hard for men to just go to therapy, especially black men, but it's possible. And you'll benefit greatly from a therapist, not just a trusted friend, not just driving in, vibing out. That's cool too. But you need a therapist. You need someone who can guide you and let you see that you're not crazy. My therapist said this my last session, and it helped me. And I was like, when I came to you, I was such a mess. She stopped me and she said, "You were." Oh, let me not cry. She said, "You were never a mess. You were never a mess. You had things that you didn't process. You had things that you didn't know was happening. Things that should have happened weren't happening for you, but you were never a mess." She said it so sternly. And I can't tell you how I want all my brothers to understand that you're not a mess. Just because you're fighting stuff and dealing with stuff and battling stuff, it doesn't mean you're a mess. It doesn't mean you're a mess. It might feel like it. That can all be turned around, but just know that you're important, you matter, you're not a mess. As we close out, I want you to take that message with you. You're not a mess. You matter, kings. You're valuable. You're needed. You're you don't realize how important you are, even when you don't feel important. There's times, so many times that I just wanted to end it all, and God reminded me so many times that you're here for a reason. I love you. You're gonna get through this with my help. So I want you to think about that today, guys. Do it for something bigger than you because it matters for more people than yourself, but it will also help you.